Hello
Yay.
there. Thank you. Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters, and welcome to my segment, the Retro Classic Movie Show. So, this is all about retro movies or films we enjoy, and we're going to go way, way back to, I believe, 1992. I think it was, or 1993. You keep me right, Walter. So, yes, 1993, we're going all the way back there to talk about a much loved film of mine. It's one of my absolute all time favourite films. But to talk about it, I have, of course, my co host here on the Retro Classic Movie Show, Mr. DJ Anubis.
To of Mental Tavern Radio.
Yes, of Metal Tavern Radio.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And also joining us is a kaiju fanatic, film fanatic, and good friend. He is known to us as Mr. Sexual Chocolate. He's also known as Jedi Grand Velle, but I would also like to call him Mr. Walter Ross.
Yeah.
And all the way from the Sci-Fi Society, the creator of the Sci-Fi Society, Mr. Sci-Fi Sentry himself.
The man,
Yeah.
the myth, the legend.
How's it going, everyone?
Yes, welcome to the entertainment headquarters, and welcome to the Retro Classic Movie Show. And yeah, like I say, but you have to talk about one of my all-time favorite films, and it is none other than Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes. So let's get cracking. And the first thing I always ask is, can you remember the first time you heard or seen Demolition Man? We'll start from the bottom and work our way up to the top. So I'll go to Sci-Fi Sentry.
Man, I think I saw it in 7th grade. Rented it at this place called Amigo Video, man, in El Paso, Texas, and I just say, I saw it. I heard about it through like word of mouth and through school, and you gotta watch these movies. Okay, so I rented it, and yeah, I liked it, man. It's that kind of movie. I'm pretty sure you guys can agree that it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's also got great, Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, Sandra Bullock, Benjamin Bratt, a couple of other well-known names, and I enjoyed it, man. It's got sci-fi, it's got action, it's got violence. Wesley Snipes, Passenger 57, with those Taekwondo style kicks, and then Sylvester Stallone, and it was a great movie, man. I think that's when I saw it, though. I first saw it in it had to be 1993 or 1994, but it's a great film, man. My type of movie, because of course sci-fi and action and stuff like that. So,
Mr. Walter Ross.
Yeah, I remember seeing this back when it first came out. And I thought in its first run, the first weekend that it came out. And the interesting thing about this is, I 2 weeks before it was the re-release, I actually went to see True Romance just to see the trailer for this movie. That's how hard that was for it. I mean, True Romance, it's a good film, but I wanted to see the trailer for Demolition Man so I can get hyped up. So when I did see it, it's like, great, and then when the kid come out, it's like, okay, this is going to be a pretty good ride. It's got sci-fi, it's got action, it's got comedy, and surprisingly, it's got a philosophical mode to it, because it hinges on things that we see now that it kind of said back then that's relevant now, which is weird, but yeah, that's when I first watched it back then, back in the theater.
Yeah, cool. DJ Anubis.
Well, because I'm old, I saw this in the theater. So, Yeah, I mean, I've always been like an 80s guy where you follow guys like Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Van Damme, stuff like that, all the movies. And so obviously I think around the same time as when Schwarzenegger did Last Action Hero. So it's kind of like we were having this transition from these guys like coming towards the end of their time in the action movies. And so whenever they would put one out, you want to kind of see what the last one they were going to have, or at least close to, as far as their heyday is concerned. But Walter touched on it, man. Like, who would have thought this movie would have been a precursor for what we're dealing with today with like the Cocteau plan and wokeness and, not doing this or that. And they're trying to like divide or make their cities and everything a certain way where you can only do certain things. You can't eat salt, or it's just so weird how some of this stuff is coming to fruition. And back then we were kind of laughing, even so much, if you remember, because I know we're going to talk about it. There's a moment in Demolition Man where Bullock's character turns to Stallone and she's like, yeah, well, the Schwarzenegger files, and he would become president in the movie. So he never became president for us, but he was a governor. So it was so fucking funny that they just called it.
Yeah. I think as well, obviously, because I think he always had some sort of political ambition, Schwarzenegger. Kind of think with him and Stallone being like friendly rivalries, he probably had an idea that he wanted to move down the political road. But going back to like what you have said, I remember seeing this when it was on television. I seen it for the first time very late night. It was like the late night premiere this week. And I remember watching it and just being wowed by it. And we've touched on like, how we're talking about the things that this is bringing forefront today in the film. But what I also loved about it was the action, the cast, and the one-liners. There were some pretty cheesy, stereotypical 91 liners, but that's why you love this film so much, because it's a proper film of its time. So let's talk about Demolition Man, and let's just talk a little bit about the film. So Demolition Man is a 1993 American science fiction action film directed by Marco Brambilla in his directorial debut. It stars Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes, Sandra Bullock, and Nigel Hawthorne. So, the plot, it's about John Spartan, who, he's a no nonsense, take no shit police officer that will, he goes out there and gets the job done. And he's got the reputation of being called the Demolition Man, because wherever he's put on a case, carnage follows, destruction follows, and there's billions of dollars worth of freaking debt or whatever in his wake. So who would like to start off about the plot and and the initial thought at the beginning of this film was like?
Let's give it to the Metal Tavern Messiah.
The Mental Tavern.
The Mental Tavern Messiah. So yeah, the movie starts out right off the bat with action. Stallone is infiltrating a warehouse where Simon Phoenix is, I should say John Spartan, the character John Spartan's infiltrating a warehouse where Simon Phoenix is holed up, and a bunch of cops around. He's apparently got a school bus full of kids held hostage, and Spartan's trying to get to Phoenix to save the kids, obviously, but these two have like a rivalry that goes for a long time, so they're bitter enemies basically. So we know this off the bat. So they end up clashing together, and it's like a fire inferno in this warehouse, and they're fighting, and Spartan's still trying to get Phoenix to tell him where it is, but he's not going to do that. And then, of course, as you said, in the way that we described the movie, you know, Spartan, it's like chaos. It's like any cop movie you watch where it's just cars are blowing up. It's just a lot of chaos going on. So he ends up getting Simon. He arrests him. He gets him arrested, but apparently the kids were inside the building somewhere, and then the building burned. And of course, you got these firemen coming out saying there's just bodies everywhere. So it's kind of like, oh, we're taking the heat off of Simon and putting on Spartan because he allowed this to happen. He just got too reckless, kind of like his Cobra character in a way, who's just, you know, very reckless.
Yeah. And even Phoenix turns around during that scene and says Spartan knew the people were in the building anyway, and he allowed it to happen, which is obviously completely false. But he basically sets him up and frames him.
Yeah.
So they both end up, because obviously he gets brought up on manslaughter charges. He then has to go through to now being part of this cryo prison program, and both him and Phoenix are frozen and end up being there till, is it 2032?
32.
Yeah, 2032.
Yeah, they get frozen till 2032, where all. Yeah, and apparently they're not due for parole yet, but then, well, Spartan isn't, but Phoenix suddenly he gets pulled out of the cryo prison and is defrozen, and it was very strange. Why would you allow a person who's that psychotic and crazy to be, you know, defrosed, as you could say, and let loose again? But there's a reason behind that. But would you like to continue, say, Mr. Walter Ross, where we're going next?
Yeah. It's funny how he, because that's the thing. During this time, you know, this is a very dystopian, you know, society, you know, as the news mentioned, you know, there's no cussing, there's no salty foods, there's no kind of, pretty much, if you think about it, it's almost a retrospect of during like the early 30s and 40s, you know, where things were more, you know, conditioned to, you know, don't do a lot of things out of what they do now. But he's released. And as you mentioned, it's like, why would this person be released? You know? And the thing about this moment is that when the warden, you know, tell him, you know, he starts speaking in Spanish, telling him what's going on, he tells him, like, stop it, you know. And then he said, you have anything else to say? You know, he said, yeah, I got something to say. Teddy bear. And it's like, uh-oh, he knows the, the code to the handcuffs, you know, and then he just starts laying a whip ass on these guards really badly, you know. And he's so, it's funny. He does it in such a charismatic kind of way, you know, very comedic, you know, because when he, I mean, like I say, when he beats these guys up, you know, one of the guys asked, like, how'd you know the code to the handcuffs? I wish I knew. Thomas says die, and he just kills this guy. And then when he sees the Warren, he says like, yoo-hoo! I'm like, he's having fun doing what he does, you know, right here. This show's is really off-brand psychotic. He is just off the rails kind of psychotic. And, you know, I'm thinking like, okay, he's not going to do too much to, you know, the Warren, but as you see, when he gets out, he pretty much takes his eyes out. I mean, well, one of his eyes out for a rectal scan with a pen, and I'm just like, wow, this dude is just he's one of those characters like the Joker, you know, he steals the show, you know. Mm-hmm. But once Spartan comes into play, you know, he realized like, okay, this is a traditional villain. Now we got to bring in a traditional hero that's supposed to stop him, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So them scenes when he's first reawakened are really quite like strong scenes, especially with the fights and all that with the present. One thing I noticed throughout the film, the the continuous theme is that the way they've created this world within the future, all of the people are just overly friendly, overly pleasant, and all that. Even like when he's in the museum and he's, smashes he asks the man how much they weigh and throws him through the glass. There's a body lying there, and you've got people coming, how can I help you, sir? And then he just goes bang and shoots them.
Yeah.
It's like crazy how this world is, and if that's the world we're heading into, we're fucked.
Yeah, because people actually ask him like, what's your boggle? I was like, okay.
My boggle?
Yeah, my boggle.
So obviously when he gets reawakened and he kills the warden, he gets out of the prison, he then goes to like some sort of booth, doesn't he? Which is like the information booth, and you've got these police officers that rock up that want to try and talk to him and get him brought down. But that doesn't. But before that happens, you see Sandra Bullock's character, who is Lieutenant Loxley, and then you have a partner. I'm assuming that was meant to be a partner, and then. Yeah, and then you have this character who's just an annoying dweeb ass with the 3 fucking seashells.
He doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells.
I'm like, shut up.
Then you have obviously Lieutenant Earls, who's like Mr. Goody Two Shoes cop man. Yes, so you have them, and obviously it's like, what was it? What was the name of it? Murder Kills.
Yeah, murder, death, kill.
Murder, death, kill.
Murder, death, kill, and they haven't had one of them in over, I think, 16 years, since 2010.
They never had it in their society. They had to go look it up.
Exactly.
They've never ever had it in their society, and it totally rocks them to the core. And then they send out these inaccurate, like, no, way they were ever going to be able to deal with Wesley Snipes. Like, look at this. Look how badass he looks there.
Well, I like how they had the handheld thing, and it was giving them direction on what to say to the criminal.
Yes.
And it's animated, so it's like, ask the perpetrator to get down on the ground, place his hands on the back. I'm like, really? Serious?
Now in a firmer tone, or else, add or else.
So obviously,
can you please, Simon Phoenix? Can you please get the fuck down?
Yes, and then he basically goes to town with him, and you know what he's looking for. He's looking for weapons, but in the meantime, they realize that they're not going to be able to deal with him, not like that. So it's somebody that was a part of the police force many years ago that says, for you to deal with this man, you need to release John Spartan. He's the only man equipped.
An old-fashioned criminal, you need an old-fashioned cop.
Absolutely. And I forgot the name of that actor that said that line, and he was in this film, but he's been in hundreds of films. Bill Cobb. Yeah.
He unfortunately passed away.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. Unfortunately, Bill Cobb is no longer with us. He recently passed away, but he's had quite an amazing career. He starred in hundreds of films, and his face is quite well known among Hollywood for the many roles in legendary films like Demolition Man he's been a part of. But obviously we get this scene where he gets, brought back up from cryo, reawakened, and Stallone mind looks amazing in this. His physique in this is just outstanding. He's still
on the juice at that point, but it's all good.
He's still
Settle
on
down
the
there, Kevin. Settle down.
And then he's introduced to Luxley, who is just like this, rainbow Care Bear kind of Barbie doll, who just, she's so innocent, so hasn't got a fucking clue. and they end up
But she
teaming
has
up
an
together.
interest in old school stuff. She has a very big interest in nostalgia and stuff like that.
She's
I wish I
obsessed.
could just, I wish I could just have some action. Like, wow.
Yeah.
That was the young Sandra Bullock, and she was like, like that's. When I saw it when I rewatched this movie, I was like, man, like damn, like I thought it was actually because I remember in the intro it said 1996 Hollywood or Los Angeles or whatever, and I was like, wow, was it 96? And then when you said 93, I was like, oh shit, like I was like, yeah, it is 93. So she was, I mean, they were all younger, but I mean, this was Sandra Bullock. She was young, dude. And I was like, holy shit.
And
Like,
I think this was like the first time I know she was in some before, but I think this is the first time I saw her in something big like this.
This was like her breakout role, and then Speed really propelled her from there.
Yeah, I was going to say Speed came after this for her, yeah, 100%. But like you say, she's got an obsession with like the 20th century and is obsessed with the culture of that era. And because I think the big thing that attracts her to it is because a lot of the things from that time are now forbidden. Like there's no profanities. You can't have the certain food you can't eat. There's certain thing or not, like you can't even have fucking physical sex because the world's gone too goddamn fucking crazy. So
that's who would mad that they can't have some booty calls.
That's what he said. So who would like to continue the plot?
we're at the point where Simon Phoenix is breaking out. He takes the doctor's eyeball and he uses the retina coating to open the door to the prison or to the facility, and he gets out, gets loose, starts wrecking, freaking starts 187 on a motherfucking cop. I don't know, but it's like it's cool how they say like and this is where they're seeing all this, and this is where Huxley, Lenina Huxley starts saying, oh, what's a 187, and they start looking it up, and they're like, whoa, what's a 187? And what is 187? It's like murder, death, kill, and that's where that's like in the hood you call it, that's a 187. That's a hit on a motherfucker, but it's like but it's a cool mesh of the futuristic with old school types of nostalgia and retro, retro styles and everything. But it's like I just like the way that they mesh it together. But come on, man, when it comes to future movies or they play in the future, they always get it wrong, man. They get the clothes wrong, they get the freaking the cars wrong. I mean, it's like I'm like, but it's just like, but it I like the idea. But anyways, going back to the movie, yeah. So they find out, this guy's killed so many people, and the doctor right there. They watch the doctor die. Be careful, and then and then they move on to, okay, what are we gonna do? And that's when Walter mentioned, oh look, one cop goes up to him. He's at a payphone and he's trying to get information on this guy called as Edgar Friendly.
Edgar Friendly.
Yeah. And then he's getting information, and then he's like, and he finds out about like every single time somebody curses,
so that's Edgar Friendly.
You get charged. Yeah, you get charged a credit. I'm like, oh, they still have credit. What's the thing with credits, bro? Why can't you just say money? But it's like, but it's I know, but it was cool. Like, he starts, fuck you, and he gets another one, and he's like, yeah, whatever. And this is where the cops come.
Fuck, that sucks.
Yeah, like, oh shit, he's gonna charge me $1. Oh no, but it's funny. But he sees how the cops are, like you said, like it was Walter said, or I don't know if it was Anubis said, that there's like a handheld little machine, a little device that tells them, oh, you got to tell the guy how to do this, or tell the perpetrator how to do this, and says, Simon, slowly get on the floor, face down, and then Simon's like, oh hell no, you did not just say now or else. And yeah, that's when Simon goes
right.
ape shit and freaking starts. Dude, I gotta say, man, Wesley Snipes, like this, I know he was also breaking out into the mainstream, but dude, like his kicks, bro, are like top notch freaking technique, and technique, vicious, thrust kicks and spinning kicks, athleticism is like he made it look good, man. And like Walter said, like he put that charismatic, that charisma into the character, and see, you can tell like Wesley's like, man, you know what? I'm just gonna run with this shit. I'm just gonna run with this character and just do it, man. And so yeah, so he goes.
He was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
hitting home runs. I mean, you said it before, Passenger 57, and a couple of years later did Blade. I mean, he was really preparing for a lot of action stuff. So
I liked him as well in a U.S. Marshal, which was the spin-off from The Fugitive.
Yep.
I mean, it's funny, man. Like he's a great actor, but then a lot of people, I think, didn't realize that he also studied martial arts. So that's the cool thing about it, and he just, like I said, he like you guys said, he really took this character and just ran with it, man, and it showed another part to his repertoire and his style of the craft, which is acting, and it's great, bro. But I mean, I'll just continue to the part where he gets the information he needs, and then he actually uses that rod, that glow rod or whatever, and he blows up the cop car, and then everybody's like, oh my god, where is he? We just saw an explosion. Like, come on, man, like you guys have not seen anything, like no action at all. And that's when Sandra Bullock's character, Lenina, said that, man, I just want to see some real action. I was like, oh shit, well, now they saw a bunch and they don't know what to do, and this is where hence they move on to the part where we need a maniac to catch a maniac. So that's the part where it comes in where they start into discussions about getting out, John Spartan, and then his old buddy, who was one of the older cops, I forgot the guy's name. Is that what was his name?
Cops or
Cobb. Yeah, there you go. And his characters are you need an old school cop to catch an old school criminal. So I just move it on from there. Whoever wants to take it from there.
But I want to add something to that. While he was decking those cops, Rob Schneider's character says something that's extremely funny in that moment. He's like, "We're police officers. We're not trained to handle this kind of violence." I'm like,
yeah. I love that part.
Yeah, I liked because when they first pulled Spartan out of the cryogenic freezer, everybody was kind of looking over his files because, when the other guy mentioned they need an old-fashioned cop, they all went to research, and so they saw Spartan's highlights as he's kicking people's asses and all this, and then one cop's like, "Is this for real? Is that a real cop?"
Yeah, he thought it was like a television program, and I love that scene as well when they're showing like a media footage, and he's got the little girl, and he's like, "You've just destroyed a building that's $500 million, and the ransom was only $20,000." And the girl goes, "Fuck off, lady."
He says, "Good answer."
Yeah.
And he learns like that. He learned that in rehabilitation. He says, man, like he started learning all this stuff about, being a, what do you call it?
Seamstress.
Yeah, seamstress, like sewing, is like knitting. Is like, man, when I got out, all I want to do is fucking knit. It's like,
I know what a button hook is.
And it's part of his probation. So obviously this is a very important part of the plot where basically they're all tagged, all the criminals. They all get like a chip or something that tags them. And Spartan he's been tagged, but they all get like some sort of like memory, something to do within the memory or the mind that gives them like certain information. So, for example, what part of his parole is being able to knit. He now suddenly has the knowledge how to knit things. Because one of the strangest things about the beginning of this plot is how does Phoenix have the ability to know the codes and to be able to use technology? It's all basically being implanted into him by somebody else. So they basically made him like a weapon type thing. Once all that's happened, Spartan realizes. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, no, I just wanted to add. I'm sorry to interrupt you, man. I apologize. Just that you said that like there's always an ulterior motive, bro. In movies like these, there's always somebody that has an agenda, and that that's why he was like that's why he started learning about martial arts, learning about espionage, learning about computer hacking, and yeah, I just wanted to add to that what you were saying.
There's as the plot progresses, we find out why. But Spartan, because he's old school, he kind of can read his mind. He goes, I know exactly what he wants. He's going to go for weapons. He's going to go for guns. And this is when, obviously, Spartan arguing with the chief police. And he basically says, well, all the weapons are kept in the museum. And that's where you get some amazing action sequences where you do see Simon Phoenix has entered the museum and you get some really funny comedic moments with his character where he's just walking around the museum looking cool as hell, just looking for weapon, and he finds, the Hall of Violence. And he enters the Hall of Violence, and when he gets in the Hall of Violence, he's seeing all the guns, and his eyes are lit up, and then he's trying to kick through the glass, and it's just bouncing off. And then this is what makes me laugh, because the people are coming up to him and go, how can I help you, sir? After he's just trying to kick the fuck out of a glass window. And he goes, how much do you weigh? And he literally picks the man up and he hurries him through the glass and starts loading the ammo up in the guns. Yeah. And there's just people walking around like, what, like they're not panicking, they're just like, they're all quickly walking away, but it's like they're not totally taking in what the situation that's happened before them. Yeah. Which I found so friggin' bizarre. And you even have that scene when the two men walk up to him when he's loaded the gun. And they go, hello, sir, how come? And he just turns a gun and shoots them dead.
I want to add another thing, Kevin. What does Simon Phoenix say when he gets to the Hall of Violence? Ooh, home sweet home.
Yeah. Like
and then when he punched the hard plexiglass, he goes, ow.
He's like, wait a minute. This is the future. Where are the better guns at?
Yeah, like where are the phaser guns at? Like,
okay. He goes, where's the phaser guns? And then he actually sees like that futuristic armor in the gun. And this is when John Spartan turns up and they start, he goes around and he starts firing at him, and then they have that great action sequence. And even Phoenix goes, when there's like the back and forth with the initial like shooting around.
That's some of the best dialogue. He's like, they let your piddly ass out just to catch me.
Man, you been had.
Yeah. He's fun. Is that you? Hey, hi. What are you doing here?
It's like that. Those would make this film really, stick with you, with those one-liners, especially when he says, what can I say? I'm a blast from the past, and Spartan says, you should have stayed there. See that banter there. That's what makes this film really cook. It's like that back and forth with them.
Well, there's that one scene when they're down, when they fall through the glass, and like, Simon's getting the better one because, I'm sure we'll get to where Simon got trained via the program, but he's kicking Spartan's ass. And John picks up the fucking TV and say, hey, Phoenix, you're on TV. And he swings it.
No, it's good. Like they had chemistry, man. Like they had a lot of chemistry. I mean, they're both not very tall guys, man. Like so Stallone's only about 5'10", 5'11", need my height, and then Wesley Snipes is like the same height. So but they just have that charisma, man. Like just like he did with Drago in Rocky IV. So
do you remember the character Leon? The only reason why I asked is they said David Patrick Kelly was in this, but I didn't remember seeing him. But they said he's uncredited in this movie.
Jesse Ventura is also in this movie too, and he was
Yeah,
in
I was just
And
about
Glenn
to say
Shaddix,
Jesse
Glenn
Ventura.
Shaddix as Associate Bob, dude, that was masterful. That was awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So
No, go ahead,
obviously they have this big showdown. Phoenix manages to get away, and as he's climbing out at the top of the museum, you've got the basically what the mayor of the city, which you mentioned his name, I believe, Anubis. I forgot the name of the character.
Octu? How's it? Octu or
Who? The main guy?
Yeah,
That's Dr. Raymond Cocteau. Yeah.
Raymond Cocteau, right? That's right.
He's like their savior of the city.
Yeah.
Yes, the savior of the city, Dr. Raymond.
What they call it, San Angeles now. They combined it. San Angeles.
Yes, so Raymond Cocteau, who was played by Nigel Hawthorne, who is a well-known British actor, quite popular here in the UK. He comes across Simon Phoenix. That's him there. But Simon Phoenix, as you know, you would normally just walk up to somebody in his way and just blow his damn head off. But for some reason he cannot. He would love to do
you
it.
got a job to do. Don't you have someone to kill?
But what's that line he gives him? Like, no kiss, no bang, bang.
right? Yeah, man. It's just
So,
yeah.
Like I say, that's a great thing I did like about this film. Why it's one of my favorite is it's the one-liners and it's the dialogue, it's the script. It has quite a really funny, hilarious.
And that's what makes it kind of funny because, like I say, you wouldn't expect this individual that he runs into to, and then when he says like, don't you have a name reverberating in your brain? It's like, wait a minute, who's this? You know, it's like something's not off, you know. So it's like, yeah, we got something in as a sci-fi mentioned, you know, movies like this have a different agenda. Well, someone has a different agenda that we may not know about. We think it's like, okay, it's the main bag person, main antagonist, but somewhere along the line, there's some underlying thing going on. That elephant in the room we don't see.
See,
yes.
and I want to add to what Walter said too, man. Like, oh, the beautiful '90s, bro. Why can't like nowadays freaking Hollywood can take some little pointers from movies like these that aren't even super blockbusters but are better than the big blockbusters that are being fucking made that are fucking nothing but fucking shit shows now. So it's like that's what I'm just saying. Like it's like I love the '90s, bro.
Easily offended.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
Like a lot of modern Hollywood films just come across as very hollow. That don't have substance, or that just don't pull you in the way the films that we grew up on.
They just forgot to have fun. They're forgetting how to have fun.
Right, exactly. And even said it best. It's like if they don't just let yourself go, you know, just have fun with it. You know, like this script, you know, it was just totally made up, you know, and they're just spitball and everything. And I'm just like, why can't y'all do this? You know, I mean, it's not taken too seriously, but it has that serious undertone with it because it's talking about today's society and then, you know, like why y'all being so semi-serious with this? You know, like no, today's movies don't be all like that. Have a little fun. Have a little fun.
Well, you see, that's another thing I think, though. I think it's modern day movie. It's just not just about having fun. They're frightened to take risks. They're frightened to upset people because people are so sensitive, which is a major point of this film, how society is being so kind of put in this bubble, this too soft, too, you know, they don't want anyone to be offended. You know, you can't swear, you can't take drugs, you can't have a cigarette, you can't have sex, you can't have coffee. There's certain foods that are being banned because it's not good for you. It's the world's become such an overprotected, safe place within
I mean,
this
check
world.
this out. So this movie cost between 45 to 77 million to make, made 159 million in the box office. Now, fast forward to this year, Furiosa cost 168 million to make and only made 172 million. So I mean, it lost money. So we find that you can take less and make some pretty good money as long as you're like, I haven't seen Furiosa, so I don't know if it's good or bad. It's gotten good reviews, but
I enjoyed it.
We're seeing a lot of these movies though that are costing way too much to make and they're just not making the money.
Yeah,
they're not taking the time to invest in the
because it needs to be about quality,
right. There you go.
I've always said it's about quality, not quantity. Where if you look at the like Fast and the Furious or the Star Wars franchise or even Marvel, they're just for the last 3 or 4 years they just spit them out every year, 3 films a year, 4 television shows a year, and they're focusing on the quality, on the quantity of product, but not the quality of the product. And you can see a massive dip and people are switching off. And then you can have mindless fun like Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, that just doesn't take itself serious, knows what it is and just goes for it. Yeah. And people, guess what happened? People turned up at the theaters.
Yeah, man, look at this film. I'm sorry, Walter, but look at this film, man. This film, it wasn't a huge, blockbuster, man, but like it was a good sci-fi film. And it doesn't have to be freaking mind blowing. It doesn't have to be freaking out. It had a decent budget, and it made good money. And it being in the 90s, they worked with what they had because Sandra Bullock wasn't well known. Benjamin Bratt was becoming barely well known. Wesley Snipes was
didn't he go to Law and Order, Bratt?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in the late 90s. So that's what I'm saying. Like and then so Stallone already brings in money at that point right there. Anything that had Stallone on it, it's gonna bring in money. So that's the part. But then Wesley Snipes, him, coming up, they weren't. We always go back to this, my brothers, my fam. We always go back to risks, and all of these fucking movie companies are pussies, and they don't want to take risks. So that's the whole point. Okay, I'm sorry. They're ran over.
Just to add on to what the sci-fi is like, risks are, a name of the game of anything, and like I say, true enough, there have been some films that, is a hit and miss, but you still take the risk because you have no idea what's going to fail and what's going to, triumph. So in this one, it wasn't a big blockbuster, but it worked.
And the films that do well are films that aren't meant to be well or seen to do well, but they do well. For example, John Wick, the very first one, that was a film that had been in development for years, or the writer had wrote it for years and years and had a certain story, a certain actor in mind. And finally, the film studio took a chance on it, give it the budget that it got. Now it spawned a franchise. And it's because they didn't have faith in it, but because they didn't, they allowed the director to take it as far as he could, and then it become a hit.
And even with the fourth one that they did recently, cost $100 million to make, which is low for a movie these days, made $440 million worldwide.
That's right. And it's the longest one too.
So let's get back on track, get back to the plot, because I love having me tangents, but let's try and get back to what we had to talk about.
Okay, Mom, let's get moving.
All right. Sorry, it was my fault, man. I how do you say it? I friggin' started the whole rant thing.
I think the reason Anubis calls me Mom is because he's wanting a spanking. But I'll let JG Neko do all the spanking tonight.
If this wasn't going to YouTube, I'd be putting a big moon right in the fucking camera.
So we've established Wesley Snipes' character, Simon Phoenix, is bumped into the savior of the city, and he's now filled his head full of all this confusing data, and he kind of goes with it and walks away. And at the same time, Stallone's character catches up with him, and he's like, he shoots at him, and then kind of the savior of the city is like, oh, you've saved my life, thank you so much, who are you, and all this stuff. And then he goes, I'll take you to the finest restaurant in town, which happens to be Taco Bell.
The franchise wars.
Yep. Imagine if that shit. Imagine if Taco Bell took over every single food chain in the world. Wow. That'd be crazy, bro. Everybody be having the shits every day.
But you know what's funny about that though? What studio is literally trying to take over all the movie studios right now?
Oh, Disney. Disney. Absolutely.
That's weird. That's almost like foreshadowing. I'm like, oh my god.
Yep.
It's funny because their stuff that they're putting out's losing money. That's what's crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's because there's too many cooks in the kitchen. There's not one focus. There's too many focuses. But going back, so obviously they go to Taco Bell, and he tells them as his dream of this society of complete peace and all this crap. And Stallone's character's like, you should have just left me in the tank.
Yeah, that's a powerful moment too, because most of the cryogenic prisoners were supposed to be like under like asleep. But for whatever reason, he wasn't, and he remembered he was mad because he was telling like, no, I was awake. My wife was beaten on that block of ice that was once her husband. He was upset about that. And because Huxley makes a mention, I thought they weren't aware of what's going on, but Spartan said he was. And there's just like the tension between Cocteau and Spartan, because Cocteau thought that Spartan would appreciate what he's trying to do, but there is thriving for wanting a better society and peace, but not at what they were doing. They were taking everything away. Like your right to choose if you want salt on whatever sex, like we find out later on is like a weird thing that goes on. But Spartan understood that like there's extremes on both ends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's good and bad to what, there's that saying, isn't it? Bad things when people try to have good intentions. So, and basically that's what this comes down to. But there's an alternative motive with Cocteau or whatever you call him. I can never pronounce his name.
We'll just call him Cockatoo.
Yeah, Cockatoo.
Yeah, Cockatoo.
Cock Kevin and not Cock.
Exactly.
He's a whole lot of coke.
But while they're having this meal at Taco Bell, Spartan realizes something's not quite right, and he sees like things exploding, some malfunctioning, and then he sees like the lens come out of the ground, and it's
and it's
like
the surveillance system,
a periscope,
like a periscope from a submarine's checking the world above. And next thing you know, there's like some people riding around on motorcycles, which straight away Spartan knows isn't right, because one, they look trashy. The people that look like all kind of muddy and dirty. They don't look like they belong in the society that's he's now been brought into. And then the next you know, there's a massive raid on the Taco Bell restaurant, and all the police officers and all that are out to get the people that are invading the restaurant, and Spartan starts fighting with them. There's people shooting guns. And then Spartan realizes these people aren't raiding the restaurant to get the Cockatoo or to assassinate them or anything like that. They're simply there to get food to survive.
Yeah.
That they're simply to find food because they're starving. They need food to survive. They're just trying to feed the people. And he knows straight away that there's something a lot more sinister behind what's going on in the world isn't as perfect as it looks.
Because Huxley, she's so enamored with Spartan in action. It's like saying you do all these roundhouses, like, and he says like, Huxley, beating up people is not fun. Sometimes it is, but he says now there's people looking for food, and see, even he knows that it's like, no, I mean, I beat up people, to true enough, defend and whatever, try to, not get them do any more harm. But when he sees that, piece of whatever, that's got food in it, he's like, okay, why would somebody, be pillaging for food if that seems like, there's a perfect society going? It's like, now something is up. If he doesn't realize, like, look, just because you might fancy me with my past, events, focus on what I did back then, which is to try to bring order out of chaos.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, is it not like
his ass? Kicked his ass, Huxley. Kicked his ass.
Oh, yeah, that's right. She's like, Simon Phoenix has you finally met his meat. You really licked his ass. When she said you really licked his ass, I was like, oh my God, I forgot about that part.
No, I never forgot about
that. But yeah, like you see, it's just one of the amazing one-liners from the 90s. It's like these films are hard to find these days with this kind of humor. But I'm sure this is when they end up going back and having that weird scene with the sex, and he's got all of his she's got a 20th century like kind of memorabilia room and stuff like that, and it doesn't work out. And at the same time, Simon Phoenix, he's got that name Friendly in his head, and he wants to assassinate him, but then he goes back to Cockatoo, and he like kind of figures out that he's being used by this man. And he's like, I'll do what you want to do for me, but you have to give me some of my friends back to get the job done. And that's when he unfreezes a few of them, including Jesse Ventura, who's the most important out of all of these new people that's been brought back from being frozen. And they end up going down to the world down below, the underworld, I guess, where these people who are very much like John Spartan, they're like living his life. They want to smoke a cigarette. They want to, they want to go out there,
get high cholesterol, and
and they want, they want to have, they want to do all that. And the reason that obviously Cockatoo has assigned Phoenix to kill the leader of these is because it's going to interfere with his plans of building a world of his own making. He has this vision of his own world and his own society, and he wants to build it in his image. But these people keep on interfering, and he wants basically rid of like the riffraff, the tramps, all of that kind of, a bit like, a bit like, how back in the day, it gets quite dark, this what I see, but it's like remember back in the day with like, you had the likes of like anybody who was like, doesn't fit into your world or doesn't fit into like your vision of what the world should be, you'll wipe out.
Well, I love when I first get down there because Spartan's like, what's that smell? No, that smells great. I'll be back. And they start running up, and they got cooking like hamburgers and stuff down there. And he's like, give me one of those and give me a beer. And, at first they're all like paranoid about the cops, but they're like, yeah, don't worry about us. I just want the food. So he starts eating. He's like, oh, so good. And then they're like, do you see any cows around here? And so he starts talking in Spanish. They're like, oh, it's a rat burger. It's a good rat burger. Best I ever had, actually.
And he
The girl cooking, it's like that. He asked her, is like, he asked her in Spanish, ¿Qué es ese carne? Ese carne es de rata. And
Yeah.
means it's rat. It's meat made out of rat. And it's like, so it's a rat burger. It's like, yeah. And I like the part where he says, "Yeah, thank you," and he starts like he's gonna puke. And he's like, "Thank you," and drinks the beer, and then but he still eats it. He still eats the whole burger.
He's like still licking his finger. He's like, it's good.
Even I was craving a burger when I saw it cooking. I was like, oh man, it's like I just had a burger last week, man. So I gotta wait till next week. So I'm like, shit, dude. It's like fucking yeah, man. Like I said, if I could, bro, if I had low cholesterol, I'd be eating burgers all the time. But obviously, I can't.
Yeah, and I think the name of the lower world, the underworld, the name of them people are called the scraps. That's
Wastelanders or something. I think one of them is Jack Black is actually one of them.
Jack Black, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Dennis Leary. That's where we're introduced to Dennis Leary, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mr.
So
Freeman.
obviously, Simon Phoenix now has his little group of friends who are all just like mass murderers, probably rapists, druggies, whatever. Just the worst of the worst that you could possibly imagine. And he ends up going down there to take out Friendly and like the scraps, sorry. But then obviously he doesn't realise John Spartan was initially down there, and this is when another massive battle takes place between him, Luxley, and this back and forth goes on, and it's some of the best action sequences in the film. What did you think of the action sequences during this part? Sci-fi.
Everything, man. Like I said, like this Stallone and Snipes have a chemistry, and then Dennis Leary adds that extra little spice of no nonsense. Like his voice, bro, is already annoying enough. Dennis Leary, but it's like see what I loved about it was that they mixed, even though it's still a '90s film, they meshed the future with the '90s, pretty decently. And then my favorite part though was when they show the Plymouth. I think it was a 1966 or 1960 or 1969 or 1970 Oldsmobile 442.
442, yeah.
442, and I was like, oh my god, dude! It's like my dad's a huge muscle car fan, so he loved this film when he saw it too. So it was great. And then the whole, like, everything that they don't use, like they even have old elevator shafts down there that they don't use, and they that's what they use to bring up the the car and Lalina and Spartan. So it was great, man. Jesse Ventura, was already on his way out because he looked kind of out of shape, and freaking, you could tell he was dyeing his beard and stuff, but it's but it was a great spot, man. Like you get the practical effects still really good in this film, and of course it's '90s, practical was the best way to go. It was the cheapest way to go and the best way to go, and they didn't have a lot of CGI. So yeah, a lot of it was great, man, in my opinion.
What about you, Mr. Warras?
Yeah, and I'm glad that Sci-Fi brought that up. That's because the scene where him and Luxley come up through the elevator shaft, through the floor and everything. I'm like, this is an example of why practical effects, tangible effects, still hold up, because it's on time, it's right there, it happens right there, and it's just like, and like I say, when they get into the chase, the car chase, it's like that's practical. All that's real. I mean, these days it's so flooded with PG. I'm just like, come on, man. I mean, get some kind of car bodies and make it look futuristic, and do this so it looks more, realistic, more action. But no, the action here is really good because it's funny how one concept of action leads to another, and then it's going to follow with another. And I'm just like, when it gets onto the freeway and they're chasing Simon, He said like, no free rides when Bart jumps on the top of the car. And this is the thing. I had to bring this up. When he talked to him about, those bodies, those people that you let get blown up, he said they were already dead. They were already dead. Cold as Haagen-Dazs. That's why he could. If you remember when he did a thermal scan early in the movie, he said it was just him and his boys, but he couldn't read those dead bodies because they were cold. So you get a fruition there, knowing that it was never Spartan's fault that he wasted, anybody. It was Simon always because he's that sadistic, But no,
Yeah, he finally admitted during that scene that Spartan, who obviously has been through this horrendous experience of being falsely accused of this manslaughter that got him frozen in the first place, that, Phoenix finally admitted that he set him up from the beginning for this all to happen, for him to be framed, and obviously that the anger and the rage you must feel thinking, because of what you did to me.
I'm trying to learn because I think Huxley, when she did like a search for him, found that the wife had passed, but he had like a daughter or something, and he didn't want to. Spartan didn't want to really go search her out. After a while, he rethought about it.
Yeah, he probably didn't want to lift her life. And if you think about it, the fact he's been frozen for the amount of time, his daughter would have been an older woman now.
Yeah.
And, imagine meeting your dad who hasn't aged, who you thought had, died or whatever. It would have been heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I think that was to me, I think that was that shows right there. This movie does have some heart to it. It lets you know, we got action, we got a little silliness, but at the same time, there's a heart moment knowing that people, sometimes it's best just to let that aside if they let them live their lives, because it's like, if she knows where I'm at, that's okay. If she's fine, she's doing well, that's good. That brings them joy, but he doesn't need to re-enter her life.
Yeah.
And I wanted to add too. This is a fast-paced movie, but it's a fast-paced movie. Doesn't lag at all. Even like the part where they have virtual sex. All of that stuff doesn't lag. Like, it's fast-paced, but it's not too fast-paced where it like, oh man, you know what? Okay, boom, it's too fast-paced, and it was just right. It was fast-paced, but it was like it was even. It wasn't like it was too fast, too slow.
Definitely. Well, this is the bit where we get up to Phoenix, who survived all of that, and he goes back to Cockatoo, and Cockatoo told him basically his master plan. But like you say, Cockatoo now has all of this. Sorry, Wesley Snipes' character Phoenix, now that he knows what he's up to and what he sent Spartan to do, and he assumes Spartan's dead. He's fulfilled his mission in his mind of getting rid of Spartan and fulfilling what he expected him to do. He then turns to Cockatoo and says, right, I don't need you anymore. I'm going to waste you as well. But you can't physically do it, because just like with Spartan, who has the thing in his hand or his head about him now being able to be a seamstress and all of this stuff, Phoenix in his mind has all of this information that was
urban combat, all that stuff. I think that's like one of my favorite scenes, because he's, as Cocteau is kind of like watching the fireplace, he's kind of like, now I can bring my full vision, and meanwhile fucking Leslie's like trying to pull the trigger. He's like, you remind me of an evil Mr. Rogers. Kill this guy already, right? So he throws the gun to Ventura. Like, that's Simon, like, outthinking Cocteau, who he thought of everything. He says, "Oh, I'll bring out Simon Phoenix, but I'll make it till he can't hurt me." But he didn't think about doing the other guys that Simon was releasing. So that's how Simon outthought him to get it done, which was funny as hell.
Can I add? Can I add to what Anubis said? It's like for as sadistic, evil, and conniving, and shisty, and fucked up as Simon Phoenix is, he's very smart,
Mm-hmm.
and he's always one step ahead. He's always one step ahead, and
Yeah.
And I love the last bit where after he's been shot dead, they basically just pick him up and hire him in the fire.
They put another log on the fire.
Yeah.
But you know who I think's more evil than Cockatoo? This guy.
Yeah.
Associate Bob?
This guy, because he just switches within a hat of time, doesn't he? Who he supports.
Yeah.
He's like,
I forgot about. Yeah, I mean, I always forgot about him. He's a character in his own right. Yeah.
That's Shaddix, man, from Beetlejuice. He's great.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a really good, and may he rest in peace as well, because he's now no longer with us as well. He died way back, but obviously now that Simon's got rid of these guys, in just like his idea, making the world into his image, he gets the same idea. Well, I'm gonna do it as well, but I'm gonna bring all my friends back. So this is where they head over to the cryo prison and they start reawakening all these
Thought everybody out.
And one of the best lines ever is when he goes, who's that name on it? Oh, Damar. He goes, oh, I like
Jeffrey
that.
Dahmer? I love that guy.
Jeffrey Dahmer. I love this guy.
Yeah.
So just fucking class one-liners, amazing one-liners in this film. And then obviously Spartan, he's like, right, I've got to get this dude. I've got to finally beat this dude. I'm going to do everything in my power. And this is where you turns up to the cryo prison and you have the amazing climax between him and Phoenix in this amazing...
I had an amazing climax when I saw Bullock in those spandex pants.
Ooh, yeah, man. God darn it. You beat me to it, bro.
Right? Yeah.
Those pants.
Yeah, she's right. Like back in the day, didn't really have rarely a porn available. So I'm like, pause. Yep, that's good. Right there, baby. Got it. Yep. That's not what I'm talking about there. That's not what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
You see, and see in the 90s, and in the 90s, you would only see, oh shit, right there, Stallone. See, but like in the 90s, you didn't see, like, you know, even in the 90s, you hardly saw, unless they were doing aerobics exercises or in the gym, you would never see women, hardly you would see women wearing freaking like super tight freaking spandex.
Right.
Like in society, bro, you wouldn't see that shit. Now it's everywhere.
Oh yeah. It's literally in your face if you think about it.
Mm-hmm. Must bring back the 90s.
Right.
Yeah, so they have this amazing climax, you know, Spartan, you know, gets to go to war with Phoenix for the one more time, and you know, the final battle is really good, and the one-liners are good, and I love the action. It's more sciencey in the final battle, where the battle underground was more like rough and like old school. They were like in this old worldy, you know, look like, you know, back in, yes, it was futuristic, but it was like, you know, you had the cars, you had like the dirtiness, you had the grunginess, the grittiness, where this was all in a scientific lab and you had all the technology around. And, you know, my favourite scene is where when they're having their final battle is where he traps him in the claw.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he takes him up and he has that one-liner. And they have this massive like battle, and then he manages to break away. the final scene with him in Phoenix is just amazing.
Yeah,
When he
that's
has
the thing where he gets when he's caught. He said, "I can drop you in that battle defroster right there and fry your ass like a chicken." He said, "All I gotta do is with my little pinky, drop your monkey ass down, and let's start and break out of there."
there was like a great stare down between them two, and Spartan recalls their first meeting at the beginning of the film, and he says something like, "Is it hot in here? Or is it just me?" And then Simon's like, "Good memory."
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And if you think about it, there's a line they both said. That might have been the line that you've mentioned, but he was mentioning something at the beginning of the film, which comes back to the very end of this film, where you think Spartan down and out, and then all of a sudden Simon Phoenix, who's got that big gun, who's shooting everything, he looks down and he sees the stomach behind him, and it's the long metal container.
Cryo ball they use to drop in and freeze them. Yeah.
And Simon's like, looks up at him, and he looks down Phoenix, and he's like, "Oh shit!" And this is when they go in thingy, but it's too late. Spartan's too fast, smashes the ball next to his feet, and then you immediately see, Phoenix freezing on the spot, but obviously it's traveling around the room, and he's got to cling on to things and fall to the ground. But I love that scene where he just knocks him and his head goes flying off the body and just shatters on the ground. And that's the end of Phoenix.
Yeah.
Just amazing. I can't say enough about this film. I just love it. Got it there on the Blu-ray. I'm not sure if this is out on 4K yet, but if it is, I'm gonna buy it.
One.
So in all, what would you say in all is your favorite part of the movie, or your overall thought of this movie? We'll start with DJ Anubis.
I don't know if I have like a specifically favorite part. I do really like the end, mainly because of the dialogue between Friendly and Associate Bob. Associate Bob like, "Well, I'd like to work under you during your term," and Friendly's like, "Let's do something about your hair, Bob. Let's start there." And then of course, Spartan kisses Luxley, like physical contact, and she like really digs it. She's like, "Wow, is it always like this?" And he's like, "Oh, better." And then she goes and kisses him again. So that's a pretty cool moment, because obviously she's been raised to think that all these other things are bad. Obviously, there's always risk with everything. We know this in real society, but as we saw with Cocteau, he was trying to basically force people not to do certain things. Like you had to have a license to even have a kid or sex or anything. And so it's pretty crazy how crazy they went to try to protect people and not allow people to have freedom of choice. So the movie is still a 10 out of 10 for me. I still like it a lot. It's a lot of fun and nothing to gripe about. There's no errors in it.
Yeah, going back to what you said right at the end when you see Friendly and he's talking to him about changing his hair, it also kind of ends the film on a note that there's hope for the future, where people can have different ideas or different philosophies on life or how you think the world should work, but we should come together and work together instead of against each other.
Yeah, I think Spark says something like, you get a little bit clean and you get a little bit dirty.
Yeah, so it kind of leaves you with that message, and basically that's life in general. How what you believe in might not necessarily be what I believe in, but let's come to a compromise. Let's meet in the middle. So that's what I took away from the ending of that film. Walter Ross, your thoughts on Demolition Man?
Just like Anubis, it's definitely a 10 out of 10. It's It's one of those rare. It's one of those rare gems that makes you realize it's what you call a thinking person action picture. Because naturally, action pictures are supposed to be dumb and stupid and everything, and they're not supposed to have you think about something. As I mentioned before, this is a philosophical type of picture. It kind of reflects on certain things that they talk about aspects that we're facing today. And, like I say, this movie really is one of those films that I realize is the reason why it holds up so well because, like I say, it's got that humor, it's got that action, and like I say, it's got good characters. I think that's what really makes it work. The characters are interesting along with the story, and if you don't have good characters, you're not gonna have a good story. So it's definitely a 10.
Finally, Mr. Sci-Fi Sentry.
It's a bunch of fun, man. It's fast paced, but it doesn't run over everyone in the audience, the people watching it. It's like Walter said, it's a hidden gem. It's something like you can watch, like me, like I just watched it, after years, and I watched it as I had fun with it, man. And it's one-liners are great. The actors up and coming at the time, and then Stallone, just his word on anything in the '90s was great. But overall, the film, it has sci-fi style action, comedy, one-liners, and yeah, it's definitely a hidden gem, man. I always enjoy that movie, man. I bought it a long time ago, and I always enjoy it, man. It's one of those movies, like I said, like Walter said, it's a hidden gem, man. I give it pretty much a 9.5, man. I mean, it's just it's a 9. I give it a 9, like a 9.5 out of 10. I mean, it's just that there's a little things about it that I just didn't like the futuristic part of it, because they always get it wrong. Every time this is the future gonna look like, everybody gets it wrong. But yeah, it's a great fun, sci-fi film that's just, a lot of people, I guess to me, a lot of people don't really give it its credit, but it's a great film.
Yeah, you see, I like it how like it's like the future of this world is not something that I would look forward to our world being, but it looks like in some ways that's where we're headed. With people are frightened to take risks, people are frightened to say anything, people are frightened to offend anybody, and it's people are far too sensitive, and basically that's what this film felt like to me. Like that's the future it's representing. And then you've got like, I don't know, because I think you've got the likes of like Total Recall, where the world's like when they're on the moon and all that, it's like total chaos. And you could see that about like the sea of like Mad Max, the world when it becomes a dystopian place, it's just full of chaos. But well, I think we need a world that's a mixture of both. That's me. Peace and chaos, because that's life. As for me, I would definitely give this a 10 out of 10 as well, because like I say, it is one of my favorite films. I can go back to it time and time again, and it's classed as a, it definitely has a legacy for being a 90s classic, and there's still talk to this day of doing a sequel. And the way Hollywood is and the way cinema is going, there probably will be a sequel, or there's definitely some truth to it, because how many films now from the 80s or even further back are now getting a sequel, a legacy sequel as they are now known. I wish they would just leave it as a one and done, me personally, but we have been surprised with a couple of these legacy sequels that have delivered. Maverick for one. In Walter, you've recently seen the second of the Twister series, which you have highly recommended. So
very good.
And I quite liked Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. It was definitely a throwback to classic 80 films. Not on the level of the originals, but I did see some hope in it. I even like Bad Boys, Ride or Die. I think it's on par with the last one. But it knows what it is, it knows its audience, and it doesn't try to, be anything more than what it is, which is basically what Demolition Man does. It knows it's a goofy sci-fi action flick with one-liners, a bit of comedy, a bit of, you know, old school action, and that's what we're like, yeah. But it's been amazing doing this with 3 people that I'm very close with, who I really enjoy every time we get together. Mr. Sci-Fi Sentry, is there anything coming up on the Sci-Fi Society channel?
As well, actually, as of yesterday, you know, me and Walter and Anubis did back-to-back live streams, man, and I swear, like, my fucking ass is fucking hurting, my back is hurting, I'm fucking,
Don't look at
my
me.
head is hurting. It's like, I'm like, fuck, bro. It's like, it's
What
just,
you do in your private time is
I
not
was about
our
to
business.
say, like, what you do in your private?
yeah, but no, but I see. Well, I see. This is the thing. This is the first time I've done a back-to-back freaking live streams, man. So I mean, I'm just more sore than I've ever been because like I said, I've never done it before, and plus all the stuff that happened with Odie yesterday. But as far as content, man, I'm gonna take a break. Probably take my birthday month off, which is August. I still made already some thumbnails, and I could just plan stuff out because I already made thumbnails for everything. But as far as that goes, we probably just have maybe either with OmniViewer and with Matt Jacobson, Gojira 51, we're either gonna do Godzilla 85 and Godzilla King, what do you call it, Destroy All Monsters with OmniViewer. So that's gonna be I'm gonna take a little break though. This next month, I'm gonna take August off, man. Maybe at the end of August, I'll plan something. I'll let you guys know. But so far,
Can you do me a favor though with the Destroy All Monsters? Can you make it intelligent for me? Can you just do that for me?
I'll dude, I will totally make it pseudo intellectual, bro. It will be on point with fucking Shakespeare, dude. I'll make it with fucking Shakespeare, bro.
And I want to say at least a couple of figures floating about on screen during that time as well.
Yeah.
Please just do it. That figurine back there, man. Like, no one needs to see that. It's not very cool, man. It's not cool.
I am offended. Hey, it's unintellectual. It's unintellectual content, y'all. We're not supposed to do that. Come on, I want intelligent content.
Well, I say this. The entertainment headquarters is about fun. It's about just sharing what I enjoy. And if people don't like my content, then you don't have to watch. It's as simple as that. But just don't insult us, or you get me fat ginger foot up your arse.
Don't want that.
Verbally, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, but what is coming up with Mr. Walter Ross? Anything to look forward to?
I'm still waiting on something, but I'm going. Yes, I am doing basically the document, kind of a documentary essay. You know, talking about the films that we usually do talk about. You know, like I mean, I mentioned it, but like RoboCop or even with Alien. You know, I got something on the way where I'm going to do something like that, but it's a future, you know, thing. But no, I'm going to do something like that and how to describe it, because I mean the fact that documentaries don't get the love that they should, but I think it really should be brought out, because documentaries actually are the brain cells of why we like these films that we see. You know, I mean, hell, I mean, if you don't realize the much trouble that goes into making these films, like Jaws, for instance, you'd be surprised how these documentaries really bring that to light. And that's something I'm going to bring up. But like I say, it's a future project.
Well, I always say, even if you don't enjoy a movie, you've still got to respect the filmmaking process and the people that put all their hard work and time into it, because, you know, it takes a mountain to get a film greenlit, and it takes it even a lot more hard work to, you know, put everything else together. But you've still got to respect the filmmakers, and I love the creative process of filmmaking and television making. I've got a lot of the making of books myself from films that I've enjoyed, Majority of them are obviously from the kaiju films, but I do have a couple of the Marvel stuff. Like I've got all of the art of and making of books from all 3 Guardian films because I love their movies. But yeah, it sounds really exciting, Walter, what you're working on. Mr. DJ Anubis from the Metal Tavern Radio. What's coming up on your channel, my friend?
Got a lot of stuff, but stuff that's more immediate. Next Thursday, Big Bad Wolf and I will be reviewing The Boys Season 4. Friday, you and I, Mr. Lambert, will be doing our cinematic synergy for Dark Harvest. Eventually, I'll do a Cobra Kai review for the latest season, and then I've got top 10 horror remakes I'm going to be doing. Also, a Brotherhood of the Wolf, which right now I've got Walter and Anthony on board. I have to see who else wants to participate in that review.
I'll watch it.
I'll watch it. I know that Goji last night when we were doing The Crow, he says he wants to do like the best villains or our best villains or whatever. So whenever he gets that sorted and wants to do that, is that supposed to be on his channel? I'm assuming.
I think so. Well, we can get with them on it.
The next Lone Wolf dub that I'm doing is the 5 Deadly Venoms. So those are the more immediate things coming up. So
as for me in the entertainment headquarters, I do have a couple of reviews that I'm still gonna do that I've been trying to do, but life comes in and takes over sometimes. But I am definitely gonna get me Beverly Hills Cop Axel F review out there. I will be doing my top 10 favorite Godzilla designs. That's the next my top 10. I've already scheduled for next month. Well, picked the topic for the next Into the Darkness franchise discussion, which will be the Poltergeist.
Oh.
Yes, so we'll be reviewing the 3 Poltergeists and, of course, the remake. And I am going to be eventually bringing a new segment to the channel called Episodic Adventures, which is more for television. And I'll be reviewing Cobra Kai Season 6 and potentially with Anubis, the new show that started on Amazon based on the Gladiators. But that's what I've got so far planned for the channel. But it's been amazing having you all on. I love doing the Retro Classic Movie Show, and I love having my friends as well as fellow content creators on the channel. So anybody watching, please subscribe to the Metal Tavern Radio, DJ Anubis. Please subscribe to Mr. Jedi Grandrel, aka Walter Ross. And please subscribe to the Sci-Fi Society.
Yep.
Right. So until then, I catch you all.
Right to that punk over there. That guy.
Yeah, exactly.
The entertainment headquarters. And this has been the Retro Classic Movie Show. We'll catch you all on the next one.